Chris, Annika, Trent, Petmani, Jason, and I will be presenting college affordability and Portland State University. Today we'll be addressing concerns of increasing tuition costs here at Portland State University and our proposals to resolve them. First, we will clarify the problem of rising tuition costs, including comparisons with current tuition fees here at PSU, the national average, and some higher education costs throughout the world. Second, we will explain the struggles potential and current students face to obtain financial aid and scholarships. Then we will propose ways to achieve lower tuition costs by providing better access to financial aid and scholarship information on Portland State University's website, through taxation, and also through local and advocacy here locally at Portland State University. And finally, we will share our vision for Portland State. So to get started, Jason will discuss the current tuition challenges, and there you go.
Thank you, Sandy. So my name is Jason, as you mentioned, and I'm going to be talking about college tuition. College tuition is one of the most important and impactful purchases that a young adult will make. It is, for most college students, they're fresh out of high school, so college tuition is their first significant purchase of their lives. If you look at the national average tuition per year, now this is a public four-year in-state college, so you're looking at right around $10,000 per year, which, you know, before we get to that, that creates about $40,000 a year, which is a pretty impactful amount for a young student to have to come up with the money. And they can do that by getting a loan, financial aid, or through scholarships, which we'll talk about later in this presentation. Currently, PSU is about $9,276 per year, and that's for this year. But unfortunately, that price is about ready to go up because we're going to go up by 3.95% in the next year, which that equates to about $370 added on to that. So that would actually bring PSU up closer to the national average. Now, considering PSU in Oregon, it is actually one of the more inexpensive colleges. You have OHSU, University of Portland, University of Oregon, and you have Oregon State, which those are pretty much more expensive. But OHSU and University of Portland are way up there, but, you know, to be honest, University of Oregon and Oregon State are relatively close to PSU. As far as other colleges around the world, University of Tokyo, which happens to be one of the more prestigious schools in Asia right now, and it has been for a while. My previous job, I worked at a Japanese company for 15 years, and all the engineers and all the executives all came through University of Tokyo. With a price of $4,700, that's, as you can see, that's half of what we pay per year, and these guys are pretty much set for life. Now, with all that being said, I mean, it's harder to get into the school. You have to do a lot more stuff. You have to actually pass an entrance exam and whatnot, which that can be upfront costs on the student themselves. Some other countries around the world, we got Brazil, we got Germany, we got Denmark, right? Currently, they offer a free tuition program, which is pretty amazing. Denmark, though, takes it to the next level. I mean, they give you an additional $900 per month to help with living expenses and whatnot. So with all that being said, I mean, there's obviously an avenue that can be taken to get free tuition. I mean, you look at Germany, you look at Denmark, and you look at Japan. Those are wealthy nations, as we are. So there's got to be an avenue that we can take, and we're going to discuss further later on some of the possible solutions. I put together this graph just to give you a good visual aid of what that looks like. I mean, of course, here you have the United States, Portland State, University of Tokyo, and over here you see the negative. You got a 900, minus 900. So they're actually making money going to school, which is outstanding. So next I'm going to pass it off to Petmani, and she's going to discuss financial aid here at Portland State.
All right, thank you, Jason. Now I will introduce the second half of our college affordability problems. So regarding financial aid problems. Now, financial aid is highly significant to students as it can help support some of their financial obligations. As Jason has noted, it is going to increase this year. However, there are many reports from both potential and current PSU students that the present efforts toward aid are not enough from PSU. The central issue behind these reports is the lack of guidance from PSU. Although financial aid is a beneficial tool for students, students cannot access the aid if they are too unfamiliar. I will now explain some of the problems associated with the lack of guidance. potential students, without proper guidance, they will inevitably be less familiar with the kinds of financial aid options available. Many of the resources today must be applied online as it is a faster method. However, many counselors are finding this new location to be an obstacle because the internet just provides too much information to the student. The student will then become overwhelmed and possibly internalize some misconceptions, such as scholarships are impossible to win. Now, this is a terrible conclusion as there is a clear discrepancy between those who are applying and those who need financial aid. According to the U.S. Department of Education, low-income families are also less likely to enroll in and complete college than their peers, even when their academic ability is taken into consideration. It appears that those who need financial aid the most are not applying, even though they are the top priority for federal aid. Another hardship for potential students is their lack of understanding of college websites. In order to fully understand what PSU provides, they must be able to navigate through each website to reach the financial aid resources. For instance, PSU has a separate website for the scholarship application process. Here you will see the PSU online scholarship application website. Here the students must create a separate account that is specifically made for the scholarship application process. However, this simple website here has caused many students to become confused because they had already made another account for the admissions process. With two different accounts, this causes the students to become confused, and many of them actually do not end up applying because they just simply become overwhelmed again. Now, as for the current PSU students, their dilemma involves the lack of time. Sorry, can I pause?
Yeah.
After,
I'm just gonna go
like,
through
after
later.
now, I'm just gonna start with the now for current PSU students, because I was like, I shouldn't leave that on there. So, alright, so now as for the current PSU students, their dilemma involves a lack of time to attaining financial aid. Many of these students are either struggling to obtain decent grades to prevent the cost of retaking the course, or they are constantly working to pay off their current tuition fees. Because of that, many students are finding themselves in a position where they just don't have enough time to explore the different kinds of financial aid that PSU provides. Although PSU provides over 400 scholarships to their students, they are meaningless if the students don't have time to even look at them. Now, in review, without proper guidance, the potential students are possibly internalizing misconceptions or becoming confused. And the current PSU students are struggling with finding time. Although, as the tuition prices keep increasing, all of these students will need some financial aid to help support. Proper guidance programs must be implemented by PSU to provide these resources. Now I will hand this over to Annika, who will be explaining some of the solution proposals to the problems that I have listed.
Monty, now I'm going to be talking about the solutions that she covered. In order to create more access and information to resources about financial aid and scholarships, there needs to be two major forms of outreach, to the high school students and to the college students. And these forms of outreach need to be very different because high school students and college students lead very different lives, have very different priorities. When it comes to high school students, the best form we think in outreach would be to provide workshops. These workshops would be held during the day and would be hosted by PSU students and staff. The students and staff would gain the credit hours or community service hours for their help, as well as promoting their school, PSU. And these workshops would entail students learning how to navigate websites, which seems to be a very big issue, filling out applications, searching for applications, working on college essays, all the things that seem to stack up and be overwhelming to these high school students and unfamiliar to these high school students. Not only would these workshops benefit the students themselves, but it would also benefit PSU and hopefully get more people enrolling in the school. When it comes to college students, things are a little bit different. College students have a full workload and they have maybe a part-time job or a full-time job. A lot of them are parents, a lot of them are student athletes, and they have extracurricular activities. It's so easy for filling out financial aid and scholarship applications to fall to the back burner when they have all these other priorities lined up. So in order to make this easier, we have a few ideas. D2L is a platform that college students, PSU college students, use on a daily basis. They go here to find their classes, their assignments, to interact with their students and teachers, and to check for any notifications that they may have. So in terms, this is a really important place for PSU students. And this is where they should be getting the majority of their information regarding financial aid and scholarships. Currently, this is what the PSU D2L looks like. It has a drop-down menu where students can click on their upcoming classes and other modules. And we propose that there should be 3 more modules put in place in this drop-down. One being a direct link to the FAFSA application, make it really easy so students avoid having to research it and find what they are looking for. It's simply right there every day for them to click on. The next would be a personalized set of scholarship application links designed based on the student's major and the classes they're taking. So for example, if a student was enrolled in the School of Business and they had accounting classes on their schedule, their link would lead to a page all about new accounting internships and scholarships coming up, any information that would be relevant to them. And then the third module would just be a link to the current PSU financial resource page that is very useful, but it's hard to find, and people often don't know it even exists. So if a student saw it every day, it'd make the whole process a lot easier. So these workshops for high school students and reminders to current students would ultimately benefit students in the long run in finding these financial aid opportunities. Now I'm going to pass it off to Paris, who's going to talk about the taxation proposal.
Thank you, Annika. The logical next step in reducing the cost of college would be to expand PSU's 4 years free program to all Oregon residents. One way we could do this is to propose a tax measure in local government that would tax a certain amount or certain population of Portland's metro area to raise enough revenue to cover PSU's proposed deficit in undergraduate tuition.
Sorry, it was trying and it rolled around.
Should I try that?
Yeah, you
Yeah,
have
you
to
just go
scroll
back.
the backslide on there.
Yeah.
Don't touch the scrolly.
Yeah, Annika's slide up there while you were talking.
Oh, shoot.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would just be confusing. I'll just do it again, that's fine.
Okay.
Okay.
There is.
Yeah.
To get one over.
Alright, thank you, Annika. A logical next step in reducing the cost of college for PSU students would be to expand PSU's 4 years free program to all undergraduate students, or Oregon residents. One way we could do this is to propose a tax measure in local government to raise enough revenue to cover a proposed deficit in Portland State's tuition revenue. Oh, I did it again. That's fine. So we would have to first identify how much revenue we would have to raise in tax to propose a tax. On PSU's website, the most specific revenue figure I could find was the undergraduate tuition net attributable revenue, which is around $140 million, and that covers all out-of-state and in-state undergraduate students. And net attributable revenue is basically the take-home revenue that PSU receives, which is subtracting any remissions or bad debt incurred. So if we wanted to specifically target just undergraduate in-state residents, this is about the closest figure I could find, and the blue section is undergraduate in-state residents at PSU, and it looks like it's about 90 million plus or minus 10 million that PSU receives in revenue from them. So based on that figure, I came up with a quick proposal of an average household tax. And in Portland, there's about 870,000 taxable households, and I just simply divided the revenue required by the households to come up with an average household tax. And not every household would be taxed as follows, because that would be unfair to a lot of people that can't simply afford a $92 to $120 tax, simply because $92 means a lot more to people working at a Subway or fast food restaurant than it does for a person working at a hedge fund. So 2 ways we could go about this is by proposing a regressive tax, which would tax those people working at fast food or lower income jobs a lot higher percentage of their income than it would for the hedge fund managers. And I don't think that's quite a fair method of taxation. And I would rather propose a regressive tax where people making higher income would pay a higher percentage of their income in taxes. And simply because I don't have enough knowledge about taxation, I took it upon myself to just estimate how much the top 50%, top 20%, top 5% would have to be taxed in order to raise enough revenue. And this would not include anybody below those top tax brackets. So if you were to tax solely the top 50%, that would not include the bottom 50%, so they would be exempt from that tax. And it seems like it would be pretty reasonable, especially for the top 50% of $58,000 and above, would be taxed around $180 to $230. And if you were to distribute that in a progressive tax form, then it would be less of a burden for people making around $58,000 and more of a burden as you increase their income, leading to the top 1%. So a similar tax that was proposed in Portland was the Portland Arts Tax, which was a $35 tax on all taxpayers making over $1,000. And that would be an example of a regressive tax. And the Portland Arts Tax was a rather vague tax, and it made little effort to describe where that revenue is going. So if you were to propose a tax on for free tuition, people would know exactly where their money is going and the exact effect it has. Portland voters frequently vote for any tax for the schools or for education and have less regard as to what the taxation methods are. So if it would be necessary to propose a more regressive tax form, I would assume that Portland voters would be more inclined, as it is a specific tax for tuition and for education. Now I'm going to hand it off to Trent, who will be talking about advocacy and local PSU initiatives that we can go about.
Thank you, Paris. So now I'm going to talk about PSU budget and local advocacy. Now, Padmani and Annika mentioned how local change can help benefit lowering tuition and how it could really significantly help high school students and college students. And then Paris also mentioned how taxation is another way for us to help reduce the cost of tuition in college. Well, if you can't do either of that and you're a PSU student who wants to help but can't seem to find a way to get involved locally or help promote taxation, then one thing you can do is support the Associated Students at Portland State University. And ASPSU is pretty much Portland's only student voice to help support our budget and things of that nature, because when it comes to the Portland State budget, it's an annual thing, and when ASPSU has a voice to help support that, then there can be a lot of change. And the best ways to get involved for students would be to vote every spring when we do have ASPSU elections to help support that. And one way to help get connected with ASPSU is on Facebook, and you can follow them on Facebook or you can follow them on Twitter via @ASPSU. those steps can definitely help reduce the tuition in a vision for PSU. So the ultimate vision for PSU is to one day be on the same level as Denmark, Brazil, Germany, to have either free or lowered cost tuition. And PSU, with the support of local change and as well as change within the university in terms of supporting ASPSU and having a voice in the budget, then with those two sides of the story, we can really fight for hopefully reducing tuition for a vision where we can lead not only just Oregon schools, but all schools in the US to have lower tuition. And on behalf of Paris, Annika, Petmani, Sandra, Jason, and myself, we really encourage everyone listening, all PSU students, to help get involved, whether it's through local change or just doing something as simple as following ASPSU on Facebook. Thank you. Should I do that again?